Year is 1809. Hurshid Pasha drives the Serbs all the way to Požarevac. Many elders abandon Serbia, and the uprising is in its worst position ever. Karađorđe hesitates, but only Dositej Obradović encourages him not to lose faith in God and assures him that help will come at the right moment. And then, suddenly, comes help: the new Russo-Turkish War. When a new wave of war erupted in 1809 between the Russian and Ottoman empires, the Serbs watched the conflict carefully, aware that their fate was inseparable from the course of this major European war. At that time, Karađorđe's Serbia was already exhausted. The severe defeats of 1809, especially at Chegar, had brought immense suffering, demoralized the insurgents, and left the path open for the Ottomans to penetrate deep into Serbian lands. Hurshid Pasha, one of the most capable Ottoman commanders, was tasked with crushing the Serbian uprising. With around 30,000 soldiers, he advanced into the heart of Serbia, relying on the influence and strength of his prior victories. Initially, the Serbs felt fear and despair, as it was clear that local forces could not stand against such a powerful enemy on their own. At that moment, Russia entered the scene. Tsar Alexander I, already engaged in war with Napoleon, did not wish to leave the Balkans uncontested. His general, Prince Peter Bagration, launched a broad offensive along the entire Danube front in the summer of 1809. The Russians succeeded in crossing the Danube and occupying Dobruja, finally threatening the most important Ottoman fortresses in northern Bulgaria. The siege of Silistra forced a large portion of the Ottoman army southward, giving the Serbs a much-needed respite. Karađorđe seized this opportunity, and by December of that year, he had regained numerous lost territories, even advancing to Tikija on the Danube. This created a new basis for cooperation between the Serbs and the Russians. In 1810, an important change occurred. The Tsar replaced Bagration with Count Kamensky, a commander better suited for close cooperation with the Serbian insurgents. In July, the first units of roughly 2,500 Russian soldiers under Major General Kukat crossed the Danube and entered Serbian territory. This was a historic moment, the first time a regular Russian army came to Serbia as an ally of the insurgents. Karađorđe received them with great enthusiasm, as it meant the Serbian struggle was no longer alone. Meanwhile, the Ottomans did not rest. By August, Ismail Beg led some 30,000 troops in a new incursion into Serbia, advancing to and capturing Kruševac, securing a strong foothold in the heart of Serbian lands. At the same time, Russians and Serbs continued coordinated attacks, taking Brza Palanka on July 6th and Prahovo on August 23rd. They moved toward Kladovo, from where they could join Karađorđe in Deligrad. The joint forces then advanced to Jasica, where they were certain to encounter Hurshid Pasha's troops. The confrontation at Jasica revealed that the terrain was unsuitable for a full-scale battle. Both Karađorđe and Russian Colonel Count Joseph O'Rourke realized it was risky to engage in open combat under conditions favoring the numerically superior enemy. Therefore, they decided to retreat toward Varvarin. This move proved wise. Varvarin field allowed for trench construction and a more advantageous deployment of Allied forces. While the Serbian-Russian units fortified their positions, O'Rourke briefly returned to Kladovo to bring reinforcements and secure supplies. Meanwhile, Hurshid Pasha continued his campaign. With Ismail Beg and two other Pashas, he advanced from Kruševac through Jasica, the villages of Shanak and Bošnjani, reaching Maskare, where on September 5, 1810, he established a camp opposite the Serbian-Russian forces. According to Vuk Karadžić, he addressed his commanders, pointing to the fortified insurgents. "You all say that a Serb dares not enter the field, but hides in the forest or buries himself among the bushes like a pig. And here is the Serb. Now we shall see who eats the emperor's bread." His words demonstrated both Ottoman confidence and surprise that the Serbs had abandoned guerrilla tactics and accepted battle in the open. The numerical odds were not favorable for the insurgents. Hurshid Pasha commanded roughly 30,000 soldiers and 15 cannons, while the allied Serbian-Russian force had about 12,000 troops and the same number of cannons. However, O'Rourke compensated for the numerical disadvantage with excellent tactics. He organized the defense into 3 trenches, placing 4 rectangular formations behind them and personally standing in the front lines to encourage the soldiers. Russian Uhlans were positioned at the front, and both Serbian and Russian cavalry were deployed on the flanks. The left flank along West Morava was led by Haduk Velko, while the right flank consisted of 500 Cossacks under Captain Nikita Nikitsch. Within the large trench, bastions with cannons and a gunpowder magazine were established, and the entire complex was built in the shape of an irregular pentagon. The parapets were reinforced with boards, and the ditches were deep enough to hold 10 to 15 men each. Although improvised, this fortification gave the Serbs and Russians a significant defensive advantage. Thus, on the eve of the Varvarin battle, Hurshid Pasha's massive force faced Karađorđe, O'Rourke, and the Allied army. The numerical gap was enormous, but the Serbian-Russian side had morale, fresh alliances, and determination to prevent Serbia from being overrun. All conditions were set for a clash that would decide the fate of the uprising. At dawn on September 6, 1810, first attack came suddenly. The Ottomans surged in waves against the Serbian-Russian trenches, attempting to break the defensive lines through sheer force. According to Vuk Karadžić, the first charge was so intense that the Serbs feared they could not withstand it, but artillery fire from the Russian cannons caused confusion in the Ottoman ranks. The cannonade from the Serbian-Russian fortifications cut through the enemy lines, yet the Ottomans, driven by fanaticism and Hurshid's orders, repeatedly charged again. What marked the Varvarin battle was the exceptional persistence of both sides. The Turks attacked multiple times, withdrew, and then assaulted again. Each attack accompanied by loud shouts, drum beats, and cavalry charges. The Serbian insurgents, for the first time since Chegar, demonstrated the lessons learned from past defeats. They no longer charged recklessly into the field, but held fortified positions and fought in an organized manner. Russian officers, especially Colonel O'Rourke, ensured that the fate of Chegar, where the Serbs lost due to open field combat, would not be repeated. The battle lasted for hours. At one point, the Ottomans managed to reach the trenches themselves. A Russian officer reported a terrible clash of bayonets and yatagans, where Serbs and Russians fought shoulder to shoulder, defending every inch of ground. Hurshid Pasha sent his best cavalry units in an attempt to break the center, but Russian artillery positioned in the rear opened heavy fire, cutting through the cavalry and throwing them into disarray. Serbian infantry, under Karađorđe's personal supervision, withstood all assaults. Vuk Karadžić noted that Karađorđe, standing on a hill, encouraged his soldiers. "Do not fear, brothers. The Russians are with us and God is above us." This bolstered the troops. The Turks again tried to break through near Mascare but were repelled. A decisive moment came when the Russians launched a counterattack. Colonel O'Rourke ordered his men, after long defense, to charge. Supported by Serbian units, the Russians executed a bayonet assault from the trenches and pushed the Ottomans back. This sudden maneuver shattered the morale of the Ottoman army, which had not expected the defenders to go on the offensive. Hurshid Pasha attempted to maintain order, but it was too late. Ottoman units began to disperse and retreat toward Kruševac. Ottoman losses were tremendous. Contemporary sources report thousands of dead and wounded, while Serbian and Russian casualties were comparatively minimal. Karađorđe later emphasized that this was the greatest Serbian victory in the war since 1804. Vuk Karadžić stressed that the Varvarin battle demonstrated that the Serbs were no longer the shattered people of Chegar, but an organized army capable of standing shoulder to shoulder with the Russians. The victory at Varvarin also had significant political importance. It showed that the Serbian uprising was not extinguished, could survive, and represented a factor in the broader European war between Russia and the Ottoman Empire. Hurshid Pasha, who had advanced to Požarevac only a year earlier, was now forced to retreat and recognized that Serbia was no longer easy prey. In the national consciousness, this battle remained a moment of renewal after the horrors of Chegar, a moment when the Serbs, with Russian help, proved they could defeat the strongest Ottoman commanders on open ground.